Hello, everybody. It's October the 10th, 2025, coming to you pre-recorded here in Tulsa, which is really rare. I see Shannon's backstage. She's smiling. I can see her smiling back there. She's excited about this. And you know what? I'm excited too, because this is her first podcast, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm excited about having her here. You know, the one thing I didn't do is I didn't ask her how to pronounce her last name. I was thinking Coolness. I know it's not Coolness, but she's going loud. Now, Shannon Kulnis is here from Gwinnett County Police Department. That's kind of weird. Usually it's Gwinnett, at least usually it's a sheriff's office, but in their case, it's a police department. So we're going to have her on here tonight. It's kind of almost a first 48, where are they now? This darn thing. Where are they now episode, which is kind of neat because we've done that several times. We did it with somebody from Tucson. We did it with Freddie Ponce from Miami. A lot of different detectives. And I think it's fun for everybody to just kind of find out what happened to those detectives. And the fun part about Gwinnett County is that they're still on the air along with us in Tulsa. And actually, to tell you the truth, we're kind of the biggies right now because North Charleston, I don't even know that they've even had an episode on. I'm looking forward to it. I'd love to see it. But anyway, we're a part of a very, very small fraternity of people that have actually been members of that show. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they're the 23rd city to be profiled on the show. 23rd or 20. All right, she's saying yeah. So that's that. I'm correct. But anyway, let's just talk about who she is. It's Shannon Kulnis, is a former homicide detective with the Gwinnett County Police Department in Georgia. Over her 8 years in law enforcement, she served in patrol and crime suppression before finding her true calling in investigations. She began her detective work in the Robbery Unit, but it was in the Homicide Assault Unit where her passion for uncovering the truth truly came alive. Shannon spent more than 3 years investigating homicides and concluded her law enforcement career as a detective corporal before relocating out of state with her family. Cool. After leaving policing, Shannon transitioned into the world of insurance investigations, known in the industry as Special Investigations, or SIU. Her instincts, experience, and relentless pursuit of the truth quickly set her apart. Today, she leads a regional team of investigators across the Southeast, including one of her former homicide partners who first introduced her to SIU, and serves as director for the International Association of Special Investigations Units, also known as IASIU, and president of the Alabama chapter. It sounds impressive to me. Grounded in integrity and ethics, Shannon brings the same grit and determination that solved murders to uncovering fraud, bridging the worlds of law enforcement and insurance with sharp insight, humor, and a passion for doing the right thing. And amen to that, man. I love that. And let's bring Shannon aboard. Hello, young lady. How are you? It is really an honor. It is an absolute honor, truly.
Same here. This is full circle moment for me for sure. So this is absolutely fantastic to be speaking with you and to be here tonight for sure.
We've communicated a handful of times on LinkedIn over the years, probably over the last couple of years, I think.
Yeah, for sure. You were one of the first guys I probably started following as soon as they started talking about First 48 at our department.
What an honor. I mean, isn't it cool to be a part of that and just to have, and we're going to talk a little bit more about your experience and how you transitioned to that. But first of all, where are you originally from and how did you get involved in the world of policing to begin with?
Yeah, so I am born and raised in a small town in New Jersey. Unfortunately, had enough run-ins with law enforcement through some domestic violence situations with my parents. And every so often, the New Jersey State Police would come in and kind of save the day. And very early on, I wanted to kind of have that same impact and that same sense of relief and provide that for other kids and other people So very, very early on, I wanted to be a cop. Also, I didn't want to go to school for that long. So I thought maybe policing would have been a good route for me. But it was kind of in that early childhood years of kind of seeing those people come in and kind of save the day. Growing up in New Jersey during 9/11, watching the smoke from my house all the way over there, watching first responders, firefighters, and police officers run towards the dangers, really put me into that. So I went to school for softball and ended up majoring in criminal justice like every other athlete and class clown in the country. So,
yeah. You know what? I got to tell you something. When I was, I finally was like, I need to do something with my life. And so I got the big catalog. They used to have those catalogs that you would literally thumb through and you'd pick your major. And I was like, oh, forensic science, that would be the way to go. You know, the O.J. Simpson case, I could be the Dennis Fung. I can do that. And then I looked at the curriculum and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Then I looked at criminal justice and I was like, that's for me. I can do that. That's not too difficult, but it's actually fascinating stuff. So good for you. So what was it that were there other departments in the country that kind of you were looking at, and how in the world did you end up in Gwinnett County, Georgia?
It's funny. My grandmother asked me the same question still. So I was finishing up my softball career. I ended up having a red shirt and I ended up doing an accelerated master's program. But I was coming out of school during the recession and a lot of states weren't hiring. New Jersey, New York. Yeah, there had to be a resident in New York City or just get on the list. And I took a few state police tests around the Northeast. I got on a couple of the lists. They said I did a bang up job and they would call me in like 3-4 years. And one of my best friends from college. Yeah. One of my best friends from college, he was on the baseball team and he actually did the forensics degree himself and he wanted to go into policing, and he had family that actually was born and raised in Gwinnett. So he thought it was a good idea for us to get out of the Northeast and go start working. And he ended up starting a little before me. I got into the grad program and delayed it a little bit. But I actually sounded like a jerk. I hit a home run and I rounded third and I told my coach, I was like, I have an interview in Georgia. Like I got to go. And I got down there. They hired me insanely quickly. It was a county that I knew had a tremendous amount of people, really diverse department, a lot of different units and experience. I know you talked in the intro about us being the police department versus our sheriff's office. Our sheriff's office definitely does have criminal investigations capacity and stuff like that, but the police department, but they also work the jails. So I gravitated towards the police department so I would never have to work in a jail. And just a kind of great department that you could really cut your teeth in and kind of get into that law enforcement.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about Gwinnett County in general. I mean, what kind of an area are you patrolling and what's the size of that police department?
Yeah. So when I got to Gwinnett, and these are probably 2010 statistics, but when I got to Gwinnett, they estimated it was about 750,000 residents with approximately 250 more undocumented residents. So, I mean, it's a big county, not too far north of the city. Atlanta is a wild metropolitan that you could be 40 miles outside of the city and people are still going to claim Atlanta. So it's everything from the city life, the small, cute rural downtowns and farm life. Depending on what precinct you were in, you were either fighting somebody every night or you were putting the cows back in Mr. Jones's yard. It was kind of the best of all worlds with Gwinnett County. So that was a great place to work. Great place to work.
So you get hired. How many officers did they have there roughly? Do you know?
About when I got hired, we had about 700 to 750.
Okay. So it's pretty, that's pretty big. It's pretty comparable to where we're at. I mean, we're authorized at 950, but we're sitting at probably 750. Honestly, we can't get people to sign on like anybody else. Is there any kind of a college requirement for Gwinnett County, or was it high school, or you came to?
I'm sorry.
Well, when you came there, did you have your degree when you ended up joining?
Yeah, I had my degree. You weren't required to have a college degree or an associate's or anything like that. You just had to be 21. We had a pretty rigorous training academy as well, which kind of really helped me gravitate towards Gwinnett. A lot of Georgia law enforcement required only about 10 to 12 weeks of training. Gwinnett has their own academy on site, direct tunnel obviously into the department, but also about 26 weeks. So you were going in, you were getting trained by some of the best officers in the state, if not the country. You had firearms on site, you had a driving course on site. So it was a fantastic place to work.
Yeah, it sounds like a great opportunity. I'm sure they're hiring, to the listeners.
They absolutely are.
Yeah, most places nowadays, as long as you're breathing, you should consider it. No, actually, it's not quite that bad. We're not hurting that bad to where we're ready to down our standards to that level. But I told you this, Shannon, that I've been awake since. We're going to talk about life as a homicide detective, but if I wander from time to, I've been awake. Right now, what time is it now? It's 6:20 p.m. Central Time, and I've been awake since 9 a.m. yesterday. I caught one of those. One of the worst times ever to get called out on a murder is like 10 p.m.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, I wish I need to do a study to try to determine how many of those I've had in my time, because it seems like I get more than I should. And it's just like, no.
You've had a lot. You've had a lot.
Oh my gosh. So anyway, you join the department, you go through the training. It sounds like it's first rate. It really does.
Yeah.
And just from watching the show, and I know I'm just getting a glimpse of your agency, but you can tell an agency when they're really professional and they carry themselves well and they interact well with the community. And Gwinnett definitely does that, in my opinion. At least I thought that they really held their own as far as the city on that show. I'm glad they're still a part of it.
Absolutely.
I wish, to tell you the truth, I wish they had some more episodes on there, honestly. And so it's just one of those things. People, we'll get into that more in a minute. But So you joined the department, and when you get on the department, did you have a dream job that you were looking to go do, or you were just kind of whatever? I just want to see it all.
What's funny is when we were all interviewed in the academy for our little newsletter or whatever the department would send out with that touchy-feely stuff, I remember seeing it probably 10 years ago. And I think I listed everything under the sun. I don't think there was a unit that I didn't list as to where I wanted to go. I'm a big dog person, so I thought maybe canine. But you don't know, because you're only hearing about that stuff and you're meeting people. And obviously they put out great representations from each unit and
right.
group in front of you in the academy, and you kind of hear the war stories and things like that. But I really had no idea. I had a mentor in college, retired New York police detective. He was fantastic, and he loved criminal investigations, and it was something I was always interested, but not anything I thought I could succeed at. So I thought I was going to have a much longer duration in patrol and try to get more time to kind of figure it out. But very fortunate for me. Not only is Gwinnett a great place to start your career, it's a great place to advance your career with all the training that we have, the exposure that we get. So I was able to kind of move around pretty quickly, and I can't thank them enough for giving us those opportunities to kind of really sink our teeth into the different passions that we could find there. Right.
And when you joined, is there a minimum requirement as far as years of time, years of service before you're able to apply for a specialty unit?
I believe there was a 1-year minimum, but it came from the time of your academy start date.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a little wild. And again, like I said, I think it was like a 24 to 26 week academy, something in that ballpark. So, I mean, that's 6 months roughly. So that's a significant time to only have to be on the road for a certain period. And I was one of those young cops, moved away from my parents. I had a few friends in town. I made some wonderful friends in the academy. I'm actually one of their emergency contacts, and now their baby's emergency contact, which I think is pretty cool with those academy relationships.
Right.
But it's one of those things where there's a lot of advantages to departments of this size and your size for sure, where you can really move around pretty quickly and gain some experience. So I think I don't even know if I was a full year out of the academy before I got the opportunity to join our community response team.
And what is that, basically?
It's a precinct level crime suppression team. So we handle all Part 1 crimes. Our job is to respond to every single Part 1 crime that happens in our jurisdiction, back up every other surrounding precinct in their responses as well, and to also do a tremendous amount of proactive policing. And to me, proactive policing is community policing, right? You can go out there and you can do 30 traffic stops. You don't have to write 30 tickets. You got to find the criminals, you got to find the guns, you got to find the drugs, but you can also make the interactions. So the next time you see somebody and they might be a witness, you have that trust of that person that you could maybe get some information from. So that was probably one of my favorite roles, really getting out there, having the freedom, not bouncing from call to call all day long, but really getting to kind of experience the community firsthand like that.
Yeah. That's really an epic way of policing, honestly. And I wish there was more of that. I think that we're kind of losing it a little bit where everybody's, you have this transitioning of people, we can't do that. We've got to, discretion. No, if you stop them, you've got to write them. And I'm like, I never really, I never really enjoyed that. Sometimes you meet people and you're like, hey, don't do that. Stop it. You don't need a ticket. I don't need to write you a ticket. Just stop doing that. Or
a warning sufficient to get you in the system.
That's right. Oh yeah. Right. Or right. Exactly. So that's good. So you do that, you do this unit here, and then you move on to what was your next unit that you went to?
So this might be a little controversial, but I worked my tail off while I was in that unit because you're precinct level crime suppression, but also precinct level detective, right? Like you're responding to every single Part 1 crime. You build a close relationship. So in the area that I got assigned to over in Norcross, it was a high crime rate, a significantly high crime rate. So we had a tremendous amount of exposure to our detectives bureau at the time. And that was everything from special victims, robbery, and homicide. And that's kind of where I caught the bug, handling these robbery incident reports, kind of getting those relationships, building that kind of ideology of, okay, well, this is what might have happened after. What should I look for next? What leads can I potentially generate before they get out here in Metro Atlanta traffic at 5 p.m. on a Friday? What can I do to kind of help this case move along? So that's where I kind of put the drive forward, and I was like, I'm not going to be one of those females that has to go to special victims to get to detectives first. And I worked my tail off to get to robbery.
Yeah. And Rob, let me tell you something. For those of you that are listening, that's a real coveted position. It's, believe it or not, there is somewhat of a hierarchy on a police department. I've said this before. I don't mean to offend any detective out there because trust me, they're all unique in their own special ways. There's some detectives that work in financial crimes that I bless them. Okay. It's absolutely. Just, that is absolutely, but it's just not for me. I have to be interested in the crime type. So that's good. You go to robbery. I'm sure that to get into there, it was not, hey, by the way, were you a field training officer out on the streets? Because you strike me as somebody that would have done that.
It's going to sound like a jerk. I wasn't really on the streets long enough to even get into the field training program before it came in. So I actually became a field training officer while I was in detectives.
Oh, good. So you can actually do that there. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, we could do a kind of mentorship program through detectives as well. So I was able to get my FTO while there.
Yeah, I love that idea. So that's an idea that I've tried to get going in the Tulsa Police Department for several years, and I think that we should do that. When you get to the detectives, the way my experience is that it's kind of like you're kind of on your own, and that's not the way it really needs to be. You need to have somebody that's willing, that wants to train you, to take you under their wing and show you the ropes and build you up for success as opposed to for failure. So no, good. I love it. So you go to robbery. How long are you in robbery?
Just a little over a year. I had some great experience. I ended up bouncing around with my academy mate the entire time, all the way through patrol and crime suppression and robbery and homicide. So we got together again. I got introduced to some fantastic people in my life who are a new set of brothers, if you would. So it was a life-changing experience because that's where I really caught the investigations bug to the point of those puzzle pieces. And it became addictive to me. It became absolutely addictive to me.
Yeah, it's a fascinating world for sure. So then, of course, I guess next, logically, it's going to be homicide. So
Yep.
there was an opening or openings to this unit. How many homicide detectives do they have for the Gwinnett Police Department, Gwinnett County?
So at that time, I think I was taking the role of the 7th. We would fluctuate during my tenure there. We would fluctuate between 6 to 8. And I think I ended up taking a role. God, I forget who I replaced now. I think he ended up going to IA. So I got the role to come on over to homicide. And I think I was number 7 for a little bit. Sometimes we drop to 6, but as with any department, kind of fluctuates based on the activity that's happening.
And you're talking about the entire department, like six people?
6 to 8 detectives, yeah. For all of homicide, yeah.
Holy cow! And how many homicides would you guys get a year?
So that was the thing. We were obviously we're super close to Atlanta. We do we did a great training program over at our agency as well. But obviously we'd take courses throughout the metro. So we'd meet the Atlanta guys, and they're talking about their 18 to 20 detectives, and we all end up working 7 to 5 homicides a year each anyway. It's just. As callous as it might sound, it's just about the volume of the murders that were kind of coming in at the time to justify the number of people in the unit. So we would fluctuate around 30 to 35 for most of my time there. We kind of started spiking towards the latter part in homicide.
Right. So you apply for the unit. What was that experience like as far as applying for that unit, and really what kind of is their selection process there? I'm curious because I always like to hear innovative ideas. So how do they go about selecting somebody for their unit? What are they looking for?
So I hope I'm not releasing any trade secrets here, but it's no application process really. It was not per se a funnel directly from Robbery, but as you know, and as a lot of people here listening will know, Robbery is a great path to kind of understand what the life of homicide is going to be. It's the late call outs. And not that the other units don't have that, but the violence and all that kind of stuff attached to it, they predominantly would pull from our Robbery Unit. And there were a few times where openings came up and it ended up going to the more senior guy, and I completely understood. I was in Robbery. I was 27, 28 years old, and I was sitting in a Robbery Unit in Metro Atlanta. Yeah. I felt great about myself. I didn't necessarily need to go anywhere. I obviously wanted to get to homicide, and whenever it happened, it happened. And if the guy in front of me got there first, that's great. And that's just one more of my buddies that I now had to lean on when I got my chance over there. So that's kind of how I saw it. So yeah, I got pulled over by one of the guys who actually hired me at the department. He was in backgrounds. He was working recruits. And I'll never forget on my first day in detectives, you actually have to walk through the homicide unit to get to Robbery. And I'm up there in my little new shiny shoes and trying to get comfortable with this idea. And he stops me and goes, "Kulnis, you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost." And I was like, yes, sir. He goes, "Look, I'll tell you a secret. You come up behind, you stay behind, you leave behind. And as soon as you get that handled, you'll be fine." Look at him like he was crazy. And I was like, what the? Sure enough, I walked to my desk and I had 2 cases sitting down there. So that was kind of a nice full circle moment for me, because he always kind of kept in touch. He always kind of kept tabs on me. So he actually pulled me over to homicide. He's somebody I absolutely admire and still love him and his wife and his family to this day. So it was kind of really cool to go over and work with him and the other sergeants. And like I said, my brother's over there for sure.
Right. What was it about what was it? Was there a case that you had kind of watched, or was there some kind of like a real famous case maybe, but what was it that really interested you into going to homicide?
So it wasn't necessarily like one case that kind of stuck out in my mind. It was just the interactions of their dedication, right? And every officer, every detective, everyone's dedicated, right? You're not putting on that gun and badge every day and leaving your family and not knowing what the hell's going to happen to you without having some level of dedication. But the tenacity in which these guys would go out there and just relentlessly pursue every single lead until there was nothing left, that kind of struck a chord with me. So it was when I was in crime suppression, and even if it was just getting to transport, and then sometimes they'd be like, "Hey, Kulnis, come in. You could sit in the room with me," and I would get to watch the interrogations from the video room. Having that kind of eyesight and line of sight rather to that group was kind of what was like, all right, this is what I want to be. These are who I want to kind of emulate in my career, with just that level of dedication and determination. Like I said, it's addictive. It's a real motivator to kind of just be the best damn human you could be to solve these kinds of crimes for everybody. Not one difference in how they died, who died, where they died, not a single difference. That was something that really struck me.
Yeah, I tell people all the time that it's kind of one of the few units where the citizen has an unprecedented access to their personal detective, you know?
Yeah.
And the way I also kind of visualize it is we're their tour guides for the worst event in their life. And it's a long journey, and it's something that it just is a lot. There's a lot of pride that comes with, well, I don't know if pride, I don't know. I think pride's a good word, but there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that unit, with that particular position. And it's just something I've always taken very seriously as well. And I certainly see that with your agency. So you're there and you're rocking along. And how long were you there before your what was your first case? I mean, what was that like to get your very first case? Because I remember mine, and it wasn't a lot of fun.
So same here, and forgive me for my giggle, because much like robbery, I had moved my stuff over to my cube because I was working evenings that Friday. You change roles every Saturday, and it becomes official Saturday, but you don't report till Monday. Yeah. But Sunday night, I got a call out for a person dead on a domestic. And it is a cluster of all clusters, and a horrific accident that ended up happening. But it was one of those things, like, I hadn't even sat in my chair yet, and I have to figure out how this guy died. Is it going to be a criminal investigation? Is it just a horrific accident that happened to this family with the worst set of circumstances? And unfortunately, that's exactly what it was. But things happened on the scene before we got out there, and it was cleaned up, and there was no real crime scene for us to kind of follow and try to put the pieces together without being completely just difficult.
It's a lot to take in. Yeah, a lot to take in for. Yeah, because I mean, I tell these new guys, every time we get a new guy in our unit, I usually give them, I take it upon myself to just, I'm the self-proclaimed, and I will send them an email and say, this is what you need to start studying. This is the book you need to get. You need to get this book. You need to, this is kind of what you're expected to do, et cetera. And one day, if you don't start going to some of these death scenes, you may be called upon to go there, and you don't have that resource. You don't have this person and they may be looking at you for the answers. So you've got to, just because you became a homicide detective and you get the business card, you still don't know what you're doing. So, and I've been doing it. I've been in homicide for over 16 years, and I still don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So it's a lifelong. I mean, you just have to continue to get better, and work towards that. So I appreciate the fact that you were doing that. So you worked in there for a little bit, and then of course the first 48 came knocking on the door. And how long had you been in there when that started up?
I would say they had floated the idea maybe in my first year. But I was probably there a year and a half before they started getting serious about people coming from New York, and respectfully, and I could not be more honored and grateful for the first 48 experience. I called it wooing. They were definitely wooing our department to kind of sell us on what was happening and what they could offer to us in terms of the exposure and things like that. So probably a year and a half, I would say, I was in the unit before they kind of came into existence for us.
Yeah. And what was that like? I know they wooed us too. We'd been hearing about it for a few years, and there was another show that really nobody even knows about anymore at this point, but it was called The Interrogators, and I wasn't a part of that, but that's when, Erin McCarthy, and you know some of these names that I'm going to mention.
Yeah.
I mean, Erin's my buddy. I love her, but she had been a part of that other show, and when they came to us, they just promoted this. Hey, look, we like cities that solve cases. I mean, it's not going to be any fun if they have a show the first 48, but we never solve it. So they want cities that solve cases. They want cities that are going to look good on TV, et cetera. And then really it's for recruitment. That's what they tell you.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I haven't done a study to find out how many people show up because of that, but it definitely puts us on the map. So they come to you. And they come to you guys. They probably had the same little sit down where you watch a video like we did, and John Kim and all these other people show up and they talk about the show. Yeah. And so your case was the very first case in Gwinnett County Police Department.
Yes.
And mine was the very first one in Tulsa, so I can relate.
Look at us.
Yes. And so when that started for you, who was the first camera people? Do you remember?
I had Brandon Swanson.
Okay.
I had the ringer, Brandon Swanson.
Yeah. OG Brandon Swanson.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Me too. But I had him and Adam Singer. And so Adam's another legend in the business and so forth. But so what was that like? I mean, my gosh, you're actually kind of a new detective anyway, really. You only been
God. And what you said about being there 16 years and then not knowing everything like that, that's how I think we all need to operate, right? Like if you think you know what you're doing, get out.
Yeah, that's right.
Things are changing all the time. So yeah, I mean, it was wild. So they courted us. We had a pretty eccentric unit at the time. Not everyone was necessarily excited about it. We didn't really have a say in it. And I thought it would be cool, but I understood some hesitancy others had towards it, and reluctancy for sure. We didn't know. You throw a cameraman into that dynamic of being out for 48 hours with your buddy and Stinky and dog cussing everybody and talking about your families and all that kind of stuff. And you're just like, well, how do we put somebody in the car with us? What is that going to be like? And I called him the ringer. I mean, Swanson, I love that man. He is fantastic. He could make a wall fall in love with him. He just got us all so comfortable. And there were so many different personalities. Yes, we're all cops, but at the end of the day, like to get everybody on board with jumping in feet first to this program was a bit of a task for him, but just the way he spoke to us and the way he talked. I mean, he talked about Tulsa all the time. And obviously we were all kind of fans of the show at the time as well. Just to kind of talk about the stories and talk about how it was going to be. And you don't know until you get there. And I will tell you, he was the consummate professional for that first one. I told you before we got started tonight that all of my first calls were going to be out of town. I think like grandma's 90th birthday parties and all that kind of stuff. And I just looked at my boys and I was like, this is it. This is the weekend I get it. And I was like, I'm going to lead us off with first 48. And sure enough, call came in, cluster. And I was so nervous to kind of now be like, okay, my main guys aren't here. It's a wild, wild west, literally in west side for us. And I have this guy that's going to be in front of me. And it was so easy. It was just like reporting to a commanding officer. Hey, what do you got? What do you know? What do you say? And just kind of being natural and really filming it. I had some other shows ride with us before, and it felt very forced. And I still tell people to this day, if they recognize me or ask me about it, that first 48 is so authentic. And I think that's why it's such a successful show, because of its authenticity. And it really kind of captures what's happening, because it's just like telling your commanding officer, what do you got when you come in? And they find out they had a person dead overnight. So that was a bit of an experience. I was, as a New Jersey girl does, I was dog cussing, and somebody needs to there and somebody needs to go over there with some expletives.
Yeah.
I remember a lieutenant writing on his little notepad, and he kind of holds it up and it says, "Watch your mouth." I maybe said an expletive back. I was like, I can't change who I am for this show. And I didn't feel like I had to, which I thought was probably the best part about it. I was able to kind of, not everyone's going to like me, but I'm going to have to be me to be as successful as I was. And I appreciated that first 48 kind of gave us the space to do that.
Well, just out of curiosity, I mean, you said you were a fan of the show, and I think many of us are. I mean, I've been a fan of it since it came on in 2004. But all in all, you said, not everybody's a big fan of it, but they play along usually. But my point is that, so had you been a fan of the show since you were a cop? I mean, all that time you were a police officer, had you watched it over the years?
I don't mean to date anybody, but I was still in high school and college when I was watching Caroline Mason throw that duty belt on, popping out of the trunk. And I mean, it was awesome, especially being a young woman wanting to get in policing. I had police officers around my family. Most of them were males. And that was getting to watch women do the big roles that you don't normally get to see. I grew up in a small town where we were still talking about the one murder from probably 93. So it wasn't commonplace for us to kind of see those detectives. And it was a really great experience for me to kind of be able to watch them in real time and in the real world to handle themselves and handle these cases without issue. Caroline Mason was just awesome.
Yeah, she's great. I tell you what, I like Eunice Cooper too from Miami. And there's some real standouts, and I know several of the guys from Dallas, and I ran into Scott Sayers and Rick Duggan, and I hung out with them, and they're both going to be on this show actually. Awesome. You're going to be amongst great company. And so I told him, I'm like, I remember talking to, actually it was me, Rick Duggan, Scott Sayers, and my girl Summer, that were all eating together in San Antonio in a restaurant. And I just remember I was just in awe by those guys from Dallas, because I'm like, you guys are like you're like my senseis, you have no idea how much I look up to you guys. And I'm starstruck by just being a part of, because they're just impressive people, and the way they handled themselves and carried themselves. Those are the kinds of guys that I wanted to be when I grew up. And they're just special people. So let me ask you, what was the community's response to you guys as far as the television show?
So when you're initially working your first one, you kind of can't pay attention to what's happening. But when you start being back up on other people's call outs and things like that, you kind of get to see it a little bit more, right? Like you're obviously incredibly focused on what's happening and doing your part to help your partners out. But you kind of get to see it a little bit more, the people playing it up a little bit. And the more it went, the more you could kind of see. Some people were like, oh, okay, there's a camera here. I heard Gwinnett got first 48. And I was like, is this really that person? Or is it this person because first 48's out here? We didn't have any real uproar or anything like that. I know people were kind of apprehensive about drawing that attention to the murders that were happening in Gwinnett. That's unfortunately what it was. There were murders happening often enough in Gwinnett, and getting people to kind of understand that. I'll be completely frank with you. First 48 was part of my Miranda warning to get people to kind of have that conversation. You've seen cops, you've seen first 48. I got to read you your rights. So you're sitting here in front of me. Let me just read this to you.
That's right.
That was already my shtick. And when first 48 came in, someone's like, are you going to change that? And I was like, no, it's programmed in me. I can't change it now.
Yeah. Right. I'm shocked. And I don't know if you feel this way or not. And if you don't, that's fine. I'm shocked that police departments aren't fighting to be a part of that show. It's been a blessing for us. I have nothing negative to say. I think that it has built tremendous bridges between us and the communities that we spend most of our time in, honestly. And at least for us, and Tulsa's got a dark history to it, believe me. Yeah. And literally, man, I'll tell you what, I have nothing negative to say about it. It's been 99.9% positive. And I just don't understand why. I know that Milwaukee, the homicide guys in Milwaukee, were begging to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And the city council said, no, we can't do that. And it's like, well, no, we can't possibly show the world that these cops really care and they actually are decent to people. That's the only thing I can imagine,
Unfortunately, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with talking about some of that dark history. I get hesitant of departments, city managers, county commissioners, sure, if they have reluctancy to be involved. But I get nervous when a department doesn't support their involvement in the role. When I was leaving, there was a conversation going on with a city to get on it, we'll say. I don't want to give it away because it might be a little too obvious. And the First 48 producer was like, oh, I'm going to throw you into the deal. I was like, first of all, I'm not a commodity. And I was like, secondly, like, I'm out, I'm done. And they ended up refusing to go back on. And it was like, yeah, I probably don't want to work there anyway. Not because I didn't want to go somewhere that didn't want to be on TV. It was like, why don't you want to kind of show the great work that your people are doing and kind of highlight that success? And honestly, sometimes people were playing it up for First 48, but they were also getting involved because of First 48. And we might have gotten some more information because of it.
Oh, no, there's no doubt about it. I mean, there is absolutely no doubt about that, where it opens up doors and conversations. And I've had people that showed up there at our detective division, and they showed up there to tell us about a murder because they trusted us just based on what they knew from us being on TV. And I just think it's an amazing opportunity. And one of the other things that happened for both you and I, Shannon, which I think is really pretty epic, is throw that video up, Amanda.
For homicide detectives, their chance of solving a murder is cut in half if they don't get a lead within the first 48 hours.
So you and I are one of the handful that were shown in the intro for every single First 48 episode, which is pretty awesome. I think it's cool, Plus, I like the video.
First of all, great video. What great company to be part of as well. But I can't tell you, like, I am so appreciative and so grateful for the show. But my father and my grandfather geek out so much. Like, my father will still text me a picture of the opening credits and be like, your episode's on. It's like, Dad, it's not.
I'm on every one of those.
Yeah, like that's the opening video. Like, that doesn't count. But it's nice, right? Like, because I mean, you do it. Everybody who experiences this does it, whether or not they're in homicide or not. Like, you give up so much family time. You give up so much of your life to do what you do and to do it well. It's kind of nice to be able to show it off to your family. And it's like, look, this is what I got to do. Like, this is what we were doing when we missed. For some reason, I had a murder every single Easter. But when I missed Easter dinner and when I wasn't able to come home for Christmas because I was on call, like, that's what I was doing. And I'll always be grateful to that show for that.
Yeah. Good Fridays are really popular for murders here in Tulsa. I've never quite understood it, but Good Fridays, man, we've had a lot of murders on Good Friday. I'll tell you, but it is cool because it's like your family gets to go on a virtual ride along with you, Yes. And I always kind of thought, hey, that's kind of cool because I've got kids that I went to elementary school with in California that now get to go on a ride along with me, and that's fun. It's fun. And it just, I think it makes us better. And actually, to tell you the truth, and I've said this before too, I think it makes some of the detectives actually work that much harder because they don't want to be that person that didn't do everything they could do. And they're being showcased. They don't want to go, why didn't this happen? And so forth. So
first of all,
they want to look good.
First of all, that still happens regardless. And secondly, that first case I had, that first one out the door for Gwinnett, that was the first one I didn't make an arrest on in the same damn week.
Really? Wow.
The first one.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, so you're going to be on TV, Shannon, probably for the next 30 years or longer. You never know how long those things are going to last. It's going to be kind of fun. Do you get recognized a lot? And how's that experience?
Yeah. So I will say it's pretty weird, right? So I left Gwinnett before the episodes even started to come to air. So
Really? You were gone already?
Yeah, I was gone already. I left in 18. Those episodes didn't start coming until like spring of 19. So it was kind of a really wild experience, right? Because if you're in Gwinnett, like you might be more likely to be recognized and things like that. But I was in another state. And I pretty quickly there was COVID and I'm wearing my mask and I'm out and people are like, hey, you're the detective. And it still happens. It happens pretty frequently enough. And it's like, when someone doesn't know who you are, you don't want to be that jerk to be like, oh, I'm the detective from TV. Because it's just like, no, maybe like you played softball with their kid one day. Like, you don't know. So you don't want to be that jerk and be like, oh yeah, I'm first 48. But it's a really cool experience. I've had some really, really nice conversations with people. It's nice to be recognized for that work even so far after, because it was such an absolutely massive part of my life that I'm so damn grateful for that I got the experience of.
Whether it was on TV or not, was there a case that you consider that epic career case for you that you really, whether solved or unsolved, that you just really are, I mean, I guess, is there that one case that really stands out for you?
Yeah, we had a case. I was actually coming off the bench on a trial for one of my buddy's cases. I was backing him up on a murder. Super unfortunate circumstances. We ended up arresting like a 14-year-old. And it was like a 21-year-old accomplice for murdering a damn pizza delivery guy. And those always just really kind of irked me so significantly. But I got the text from my sergeant that they had a call out. It was in a certain part of the county. I knew it would take a while. And like, he's texting me like, are you going to be out soon, or do I just give the homicide to somebody else? And I was like, I'm coming, I'm hurrying up. Like, please just let me go. And I'm with the defense attorney that still to this day, we just went back and forth. She gave me one of the best compliments of my life. She said, everyone else is ping pong. It's like playing gymnastics with you during the trial. And that was something I took great pride in.
That's cool.
But she was kind of going back and forth with me. And I'm like, I'm about to get pissed. And we got out there, and it was just one of those things. And I was a really big proponent in knowing your community and knowing where you're at. And when I showed up and took the roads that I had to get there, down these windy dirt roads at one point in the county, and I said immediately, I'm not going to say their name, but I was like, it's either one of these brothers, and I called them by their family name. It's either one of these guys or they did it. Mm-hmm. Sure enough, when we were able to turn the body over, once the ME got there, we confirmed it wasn't, in fact, one of the family members, but they did, in fact, commit the murder.
Wow.
They did, in fact, commit the murder. And it was just one of those cases. And I geek out. I talk about puzzle pieces so much in policing and detectives. Yeah. And I do it now in my current role in insurance fraud. But it's the puzzle pieces, right? And sometimes the puzzle pieces are 50. Sometimes they're 100. Sometimes they're 3D. And sometimes they're 2,000. And that was one, Jabari Petway, November 2nd, 2016. Jabari Petway was found shot and killed on a dirt road in Snellville, Georgia. And we ended up getting the suspect in 2 weeks. And the pieces that we were able to just kind of put together, between the DNA evidence we ended up getting and finding Jabari's vehicle burned out in Atlanta, and how we ended up finding that vehicle was just wild. We were rolling with Atlanta. We had tracked it through some interviews. We had tracked the vehicle to a potential location. We ended up finding it on surveillance the night of the murder, and we ended up finding the guy that was seen on video cleaning the car off with the suspect. We find him, we wrap him up, we have the conversation. He kind of gives us a rough location as to where it's going to be. We get an Atlanta boy in the car and we jump in, and he's like, oh, it's over here, blah, blah, blah. We don't throw our vest on. We're not even thinking. And we're going through some of these neighborhoods in the old West End before it got absolutely redone by the stadium. And my buddy and I, the same guy, started the 82nd Academy together. We were driving with him, and I was like, we got to put our vest on. The county's not going to cover us if we get shot. Right. So sure enough, we pull in and to a spot just because of how hot it was over there. And we pull into this abandoned apartment complex, completely offset from where we were, just to kind of hide out and get some cover in case anything went bad. There was like 50 guys across the street at another abandoned apartment complex. And my guy had to go use the little boy's room, and he called me over and he's like, "Is that our car?" And he tried to convince me it wasn't. I looked at the door. I'm like, that's the door. That's the exact car. That's how those cars hit. He and I were arguing. He's like, "I don't think so." I was like, "Call the wrecker." I was like, "That's my car." Sure enough, it ended up being it. Just because we went to go do the right thing and put our vest on. Obviously, my friend took it a little further with relieving himself in the woods.
Right.
To help us find that car. I mean, maybe we would have found it otherwise, but it was so kind of hidden and so off where we were. I mean, obviously we were in the right area, but I don't know if we would have found it otherwise if we weren't doing the right thing and putting our vest on and making sure we were safe and secure on our hunt. And we find that car, and it was Lieutenant Shelley Millsap, who's probably still featured on the show a good bit now. He was my sergeant at the time. And I remember coming out of the interview with the suspect, and he had a $1 bill posted on his cubicle, like tacked up. I was like, "What was that for?" He's like, "Brookins, Sergeant Brookins, Major Brookins now, bet me $1 suspect wasn't going to talk to you." I was like, "So you put the money on me?" And he's like, "Yeah, I put my money on you." And the suspect talked to me, and he still has that $1. And you better believe I still have a picture of that $1 with that serial number, because that man's not allowed to give that $1 up, because I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
It means a lot. And I'll tell you, yeah, you darn right it does. And all right. So you end up getting to a point where you make a decision to change careers. And we were talking off air that, I mean, in this business, this not only does being a police officer become your identity, really, but aside from that, being a part of like Homicide, that's your life. I mean, there's other people within the police department that look up to you, whether it be deserved or not. I mean, but it's just kind of that way it is. People know who you are, and so. What was that like? And what was there a particular where you just kind of just like, I just want to try something different, that you've got to experience what you wanted to do, and now you wanted to go into a completely different world or whatever, if you can kind of explain that for me.
Just so we know, if I do end up dead after this podcast, it's because my wife's about to kill me for what I'm going to say. I didn't necessarily make that decision, right? I did what was best for my family. And at the time, unfortunately, we were not earning, I think, a decent wage. Unfortunately, my wife was in the medical profession and making a lot more money than I thought I would ever see, even with detectives and even with that corporal rank. So when we got married, we two kind of had a little bet going on, and it was at that point where we just had to kind of be realistic about what life was going to look like if she were to move over, and I was still making what I was making, and the opportunities that I kind of had if I were to kind of seek out. But I worked a double on my last day. My last night in the department, I got a call out with Lieutenant John Cleland now. He called me off the bench for one more. That was over a $1 store football. I'll never forget how angry I got at that mobile carrier not giving me an accident warrant on it. Probably the only time I lost my cool, but I had no time left anyway. But yeah, it was absolutely wild. I worked a double. I was still finishing reports. Just I kind of fought it tooth and nail, and talking with the deputy chief until the last day to give me a take-home car just up to the state line. I still tell him all the time, Deputy Chief Shaw, every time I see him, I said, "Hey, I'll do reserves for you. 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. You got me. I'll still come back." My best friend is actually Detective Sergeant Micah Hegwood, still over the unit. So it was such a pull to kind of leave it. but kind of making that adult decision, and kind of understanding like, hey, this is what's best for us, and this is what's going to be best for our family in the future. It sucked, and it still sucks, and I still have to talk myself out of sometimes not looking at the step chart to see, well, what would I come back at? I love my role, and I love the decisions that I've made, but it's something that still just pains me to bring them up. And I love that department. Every place is not without their faults. But Gwinnett is an absolutely wonderful place to work, and it's incredibly supportive, fantastic. The leadership that they have right now is just top notch. And I am so wildly impressed by everything they continue to do, to do the right thing. And I'm just very fortunate to still be able to get to look back on that with such pride, because they've only continued to improve since.
So what is it that you're doing? You move from there, you end up going to, because you didn't go straight to Travelers. You were somewhere else, if I'm not mistaken, because I think I saw.
No, so I took a hiatus. I did the most millennial thing of my life. I took a hiatus. I told them I missed too many Christmases and birthdays, and I hadn't had more than a few days off. I don't even think I took a full week off for my wife and I eloped in Hawaii. I don't even think I took a full week off for that. And I took the red eye to get home so I could go to my promotion ceremony. It was just one of those things where when I was coming out of policing, I didn't have a job lined up. I got hired on by another carrier. I asked them for a delayed start. And like you said in my intro, back in 2016, one of my homicide partners left me for the same company and left me for SIU. And I really had no experience with SIU at that point. I had no idea what insurance investigations were or what they did. And it was kind of this weird little coincidence in 2017. He knew my wife was potentially going to pull us to Alabama, and he got me a job interview. I didn't get the role. And then in August of 18, I'm still on a delayed start, trying to finish up the rest of my summer. And I got a call from my carrier, and they said, hey, any chance you're in Alabama and any chance you want a job? And I ended up getting the role. I kind of call it insurance detective. And that's, I think, the most accurate way to describe it. It's a general detectives unit that works for the insurance company. So it's just one of those things where we have a really good transition for law enforcement, right? So you come out, you do statements, you grab interviews, you find the evidence. You basically build a case for a grand jury, and you send it back to your claim professionals to identify whether or not there's coverage. They're going to deny the claim. They're going to pay the claim. And just like policing too, like you get to help people confirm what happened. Obviously, there's a significant amount of fraud that plagues the insurance industry that unfortunately affects all of us. I know this sounds like a super cheesy pitch, but insurance fraud really impacts every single person that drives a car, owns a house, rents an apartment, pays medical bills, life insurance. Insurance fraud is rampant, and it costs all of us. So it was kind of cool to take those skills and kind of transfer them over. And granted, we're not working homicides anymore. But I mean, we're still figuring things out. And that's what I love, the puzzle pieces of, hey, did this really happen, like you say? And did you really have a $250,000 theft of 45 guns, or did your ex-wife just get pissed at you and take them? And now you're trying to make a bogus claim and get paid. Or you just stuck
him in a trunk in your basement. And,
turns out I actually sat with the DA because I made enough of a stink. The DA sat me down, and he's like, no, I told him in that chair that it was marital property. And sure enough, we were going to cut that check to him because we were hindered otherwise to get the evidence. So it's pretty wild, and it's pretty fantastic. The International Association of Special Investigations Unit, I actually just got elected to the board of directors in August at our annual conference. And it's really bridging the law enforcement aspect to the insurance investigations world. I don't know necessarily what the jurisdiction of Tulsa looks like, and I don't know if you guys ever had this case, but one sticks out in my mind in Gwinnett where right on the county line, we had a murder. Agency worked it, put a little bow on it, and realized, happened next door. It's yours. And you just kind of hand it over and you give them a nice little gift wrap of a felony case. And that's kind of what we have the opportunity to do over here. We have a tremendous amount of investigative avenues that we can gather as much information as possible to follow up with a claim. So it's nerdy, but it's fun.
So what, and I know we're coming to a close here pretty quick, but what is, obviously you were in law enforcement for 8 years? Am I right?
Yeah. Yep.
And in those 8 years, I mean, obviously you were a shining star. I mean, for you to be able to elevate yourself into robbery and then homicide, honestly, that just doesn't happen in that time frame, really. And you went from there, and now you've become a shining star in your industry. Obviously, if you're on the board and you've elevated yourself to the president position in an association, et cetera. So that tells me a lot about you, because you're somebody that takes it serious. You probably have a lot of fun too, and you're making an impact, and that's what it's about. And so, what is in your future, Shannon? I mean, what's the goal? I mean, you're from what I'm hearing, you're almost at the top of the mountain, but there's more to it. I know that you want more. So what is that? What's your dream job? What are you shooting for?
Right now, I'm just trying to keep drinking through this fire hose and trying to, like I said, build this network as much as possible. We have a great group of people on both sides, and I'm just trying to make us collaborate to try to put at least a small Band-Aid on the exposure that insurance fraud kind of captures all of us. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, just like in policing, you have to find a great agency, you have to find a great company to work for. So if I wasn't able to retire from Gwinnett County Police Department as a major, if not more, I've now found my place where I tell people all the time, you're going to have to kick me out. I'm never leaving because I found a really great company that treats us well and kind of has that same impact, right? You get to move, you get to experience a lot of new things, you get to kind of grow in your role. So we'll see. I'm still a little new in my supervisory career here, and still trying to make a name for myself. I just got the national arson program last year for the field side. So it's something that I absolutely love. Those are a little bit more fun, like homicides. So you just kind of get to keep finding things on this private sector that you can kind of sink your teeth in and grow your passion and just kind of shift gears a little bit.
And not only arson's about the most difficult crime to work. So, I mean, that's really hard to work, honestly. Yeah. So finally, you were telling me that, or at least I read somewhere, you're actually doing some public speaking now, for your job. And I mean, I would assume you got audiences of probably 400, 500, 600 people probably.
Well, that's a little lofty at this point. I may have convinced my company and the IASIU organization to let my buddy and I speak. I make friends everywhere I go. I try to, at least, and I got a really good guy up in our New York office. We called it the Friend Show. So we got to speak at the IASIU conference in August about the transitions we both made from law enforcement in our careers and our experiences over here and rising through leadership and things like that. And then just kind of telling the story of what we do and trying to get as much involvement. I'm a big believer that the buy-in is the most important thing, right? You don't want somebody sitting next to you in homicide that's not bought into, this is your life now. This is nights and weekends. This is holidays. This is missing the kids' birthday parties. It sucks, but it's going to happen. So I kind of try to drink the same juice over here and sell the same product. It's about the buy-in and what you're willing to do to kind of make sure that you're delivering the best results. So
teamwork makes the dream work, ladies and gentlemen. And not only that, but and I've said this for years, I don't really care what people like. They don't care what I think anyway. But I always say, I don't care what people look like on paper. I like trainability and the ability to work as a team. That's the kind of person that I think fits best in. Really, I worked in the medical field for 10 years before. Trust me, that's what makes the team a winning team. Shannon, my gosh, I'll tell you what. Tell your wife thank you for letting us borrow you this evening. This was the one night. Listen, I was exhausted before I got in here, but you have You have made me wake up, and I'm actually energized. And this is fun for me because I like I said, I've really wanted to hang out with you and meet you because like I said, you're one of those detectives, and I just don't have anybody on here. Believe me, I want people that are standouts and people that have moved mountains that have impressed me, and you're one of those people. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being you and moving mountains and stay in touch. And you got a friend for life here, young lady. Okay,
Thanks.
so seriously, I'll probably send you. I'm going to send you one of the homicide booklets that I actually came up with, and I'm going to send you a PDF version of it. And if you want a hard copy of it, I'll send you one of those. But the reason why I'm going to send it to you because I want you to send it to Gwinnett, and they can steal my idea.
Okay.
And it might be something that they actually like. And what it was something that I would hand out. I came up with this idea. I couldn't stand getting. I hated it when people would call me for like property. Hey, we need your social security card. We need this. We need that. How come I can't get this? I can't bury him with that. I'm like, no. So I told the guy that I worked with, which was Ronnie. We didn't have partners, but I worked with this guy a lot. I said, no, I'm not. I'm done with this. I'm going to come up with a booklet that answers all their questions that we hand to them when we do the death notification, which you and I both know that they only retain about 10% of what's going on at that death notification. And so it tells them how to do everything from filing victims compensation to where is the property room, how long does it take for DNA, that kind of stuff. You'll see it. I'll send you a copy of it, and feel free to send it along to them. And they may already have one like it. I don't know. Gwinnett's pretty innovative. So, but if not, they can steal my idea, and they'll love it. Trust me. They're handing. I teach all over the country, I present all over the country, and I've been handing those things out like candy until I realized that we were paying for them. Then I was like, well, I didn't realize how much those things cost, but now we have grants that fund it, so it's not a big deal. But I'm going to send you one of those, and awesome. If you, like I said, if you want a hard copy of it, then great. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you have enjoyed this time, this installment of Where Are They Now? First 48 edition, because I'm sure that people wondered where in the heck you went, and I know that with Gwinnett, there is quite a bit of turnover because on the homicide unit, because there's a lot of you guys do something that's relatively unique, is you put a huge emphasis on advancing your career and promotions there. At least I've heard that. And one of the fun things is I get my information from all those camera people because I'm like, hey, what do they like? What are they saying about us? What is it really like in their office? Because I'm curious about that. And fortunately for me, I've gotten to know a lot of the detectives from the various cities because I get around and I'm a fan. So if I see something that I'm like, hey, Rob Barrere in New Orleans, did you try this?
Yeah.
Unsolicited, but anyway, I'll tell you what, I won't keep you any longer, but I'm gonna say this to everybody, ladies and gentlemen. This show is not a show without you, and I appreciate everybody being here. Hopefully this is going to be episode number 70, Shannon. Number 70. There's a lot of epic guests that are out there, and so to the people that are watching, remember to like and subscribe. Thank you for being here. Like and subscribe. It means the world, and it means a lot to the people that I have on here too, because they want to have people watch it. I'm going to send you a link to this. Feel free to share it and tell people to watch it over and over as many times as they want. They can watch anything, that 70 freaking episodes that are just perfect. But anyway, thanks again, Shannon. I really loved having you on. And I'm glad to consider you a friend now that we've met. And like I said, thank you very much. It's really an honor to have you on. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what it's going to be next week because, actually I do. From this time, this is going to air October the 7th. I will tell you this much, that it's going to be Catherine Ramsteed, I think is her name. She's in the top 20 or top 21 forensic psychologists in the world. And she spent at least 10 years dealing with or studying BTK personally, and among many other serial killers. And she actually, that became kind of her specialty, actually. Not only that, but she's written 47 books. This lady knows everybody from John Douglas to Henry Lee to I couldn't even believe that she's going to come on here, but she is, and she's going to be awesome. And so that'll be October the 17th. So when you see this on October the 10th, you're going to have her coming on right behind, and it's just epic, 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 and I love it. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, do you have any final thoughts? Anything else that you want to say?
Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and kind of get to share my story a little bit. But this is awesome. This is awesome.
All right. It's never sir from here on. It's just Jason, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, catch us next week. And until then, take us out, Amanda.